This is day 6 of 20 Days of Learning with Illustrator. Let's talk about layers. In Illustrator, layers allow me to break up my artwork into several chunks. This makes it a lot easier to work with as far as selecting and viewing my content. For example, if I wanted to select just this fish and I were to try to use my selection tool, you can see I'm having a hard time only selecting that fish. However, if I turn off the layers outside of the fish, it makes it much easier to select my fish, and I don't have to worry about selecting other content. If you still want to see the content visible on a layer, you can also choose to lock those layers. That way I can still see the content in those other layers, but when I select the fish, it only selects the content within that given layer that I'm working on. Adding layers in Illustrator is really easy. Just click this Add Layer button right here. Now I'm going to name this layer Ocean Floor. And I'm going to grab the content here, both my seaweed as well as my rock. We'll cut those out using Control X, jump to my ocean floor layer, and hit Control V to paste that content. Alternatively, I can hold Control Shift V when I paste. This is going to paste my content in place. This is really helpful when I'm moving content from layer to layer because I may want to keep the same position of my content when I paste it. In this case, it doesn't make a big difference, but that's a really helpful way to paste your content into the exact place. Now, let's move this content over. You notice because this content is on my ocean floor layer, which is on the very top, the content automatically gets placed above my other content within that space. Even if I reorder this content to the very back, it still will display in front of the ocean because it's on that top ocean floor layer. Now that my fish are kind of falling behind, I'm going to drag this layer 2 up above, just move it right up, and now my fish is in the right place again. A few helpful keyboard commands when you're working with layers. First, if I hold Control when I go to click on a particular layer, it will toggle on my outline mode. That makes it so that I'm only seeing the paths within that layer. This mode can make viewing particularly complex artwork much easier. For example, in this sky, if I want to see how these clouds were made, I can select the cloud layer and click Control and click on that layer. Now I can tell those clouds are actually just a single path, and working with them is going to be a lot different as opposed to if those were shapes. I hold Control and click again on that layer, and it will then toggle the outline mode off. Another helpful keyboard command can be holding Alt when we click on a layer. This is going to toggle all other layers off other than the layer that we've selected. I'm going to use this to toggle Ocean 3 on because I can see there's an issue with my layer, but I'm not quite sure where the issue lies. So we'll hold Alt, click on Ocean 3, and now I can see there are some anchors that are out of place. So let's go ahead and unlock that layer, select those anchors, and then remove them using my toolbar. To toggle all the layers back on, I just hold Alt, click on that layer, and now all the layers have been turned back on. At different times in your workflow, it might be helpful to be able to select multiple layers. So I can do this by holding Control and clicking on various layers. I can also just select a single layer, hold Shift, and then click another layer down below, and it will select all the layers in between. One function I find particularly helpful when I'm working with layers is to select that layer by clicking the circle right here next to the layer and then adjusting the opacity of the layer down. This allows me to be able to see through that layer. Then I'll go ahead and lock the layer. That makes it so that I can still see the content behind and in front of the layer. This just makes it much easier to align my artwork and make everything work in context of one another. Then once I'm done, I can unlock my layer, come back over to my layer, and change the opacity back to 100, and we can see everything in my artwork again. On a final note, when you're working with layers, some options may be available through this menu on the right side. For example, I may choose to merge layers into one, I may choose to collect all my content into a single layer, or I could select several other options that are available through this menu. That's everything I have to share with you about layers today. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Thanks. Bye.